Greetings. Tony from Old River Hardgoods again. The music you're listening to is Devil Under the Table from my first CD from Mountain Walls. And as always, there's a link to the full version as well as a video I did down in the description below. And as you judge by the title screen, May 2024 marks the 30th year I've been in business selling old tools. And it's been quite the ride. Haven't done it full time for all that while, but still been moving them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got to how it all started and some of the things I've done along the way and who knows what else. So anyways, sit back and enjoy. Well, the story begins with, I had been working for Tandy Corporation in their business products division. That was Radio Shack's parent company, selling computers. And I had primarily been in the Allentown and Pocono area, but then in December of 1985, got transferred down to Harrisburg. And then we moved family and everything down in February of 1987. And this was a view I enjoyed every morning and every night from 1987 until 1995. And Tandy, of course, botched things up with their business products division, and that somebody should write a book on just how to screw things up, because they really could have owned the computer business if they'd have wanted to. But thanks to the arrogance and stupidity of upper management, they did not. And the whole thing crashed down back in 1990, and I was out on my own by then doing computer consulting. And as part of that, I'd set up a bulletin board system using FidoNet, which was one of the early user-operated computer networks. It was worldwide and somewhat successful. And the internet, while it was around, was primarily governments and corporations, and commercial fees were rather expensive. But through some friends from both FidoNet and that I knew from out doing computer work, they had a feed from a friend of a friend. And with a whole lot of software and a whole lot of cussing and kicking, managed to get it tied into my bulletin board. And one of the groups I had access to was the Woodworking. And I'd done a lot of work on our house down there in York Haven. But by 91 or so, I was looking to get into doing some furniture building. And I've been watching this old house and the Woodwright's Workshop, and even some of the British BBC-produced programs where the guys were still doing hand tool woodworking, and it kind of caught my fancy. So I'd gotten some books on the subject and did some research that way, and started buying tools. And I had a modest collection of about a dozen planes and some chisels and that. And we were going to the flea markets, primarily the old Silver Springs Flea Market in Mechanicsburg, PA. Well, I'd built my workbench, and Then in 1994, beginning of May, I got wind of an auction, a tool auction. It's being held in Zionsville, PA, which is outside of Macungie, outside of Allentown. And this guy was a longtime tool dealer by the name of Donnelly, no relation to Martin, for those of you who know MJD. But this guy had a bank barn, similar to this one. A bank barn, for those of you who don't know, the stalls are kind of set on a lower level, and then the upper hay area has a ramp or set in the side of a hill so that the wagons can be driven directly into it. Kind of a common form for this area, and this isn't the barn because I couldn't find a picture of that or the one, but it was similar to this. And it's about 60 foot across the front, 20 foot deep in the stall area, and the guy had removed all the stall stuff except for the needed supports. And inside, there were 3 rows of shelves running across the sides and the back with molding planes. Literally thousands and thousands of molding planes. There were double rows of tables that literally you had a deer path to walk between, stacked with boxes and piles of tools, and they were also stacked up to the undersides of the tables with tools. Let me tell you, there was just so much stuff there, it still boggles my mind today. People look at my place and say, oh my God, where'd you get all this stuff? And I think of that place and, oh, this is nothing compared to what this guy had. And the auctioneer was a guy by the name of Tim Watring, and what he was doing, it took me a little bit to get the drift of things, but he'd have somebody bring out like 5 or 6 planes, and first run was choice, you bid whatever you wanted to bid and take choice out of that pile of planes. He might do that one or two more times, and then there might be like 3 planes left, and he'd say all 3 for one money. And I could grab a pile for $5, maybe $6, maybe $7. Yeah, I didn't push it much past 10, but it just kept going on and on and on. And they were bringing out handfuls of clamps, wooden clamps. They brought out probably 20 nail kegs full of T-augers. Those things sold for like $3 a piece. And at the end of the day, I filled up my vehicle, which at the time was a 1988 Bronco 2, which for those of you who aren't familiar with, is about the same size as a 90s vintage Ford Explorer. I filled up the back. I filled up the back seat. I filled up the passenger seat, and I could barely see out of the rearview mirror. And I had spent all of $150. Yeah. And headed the 2-hour ride back to the house and spent the next day unloading and sorting, going through, and realized I had a whole lot of duplicates there because, needless to say, with all that buying, I wasn't being real particular. And I just decided it was time to start selling tools. So I went on to Rec Talk Woodworking, put a note up saying, hey, anybody interested in old tools, send me an email, and I'm putting together a list. And that's what I did. And let me tell you, in those days, you didn't have the software like you had today. I mean, I had to basically manually make up the list and send these things out one at a time through my internet emailer, and I couldn't send more than one at a time. So it was pretty much an all-day process doing it, just sending out maybe 25 emails. But I got a few sales off of it. And, a couple more people sent me their email addresses, and I managed to put out a few more lists over the next 8 or 9 months. And then my guys that had the internet connection lost it because their friend of a friend who was supplying them with the connection got another job, and he pulled the plug on theirs. So I was offline with that. And in the meantime, we had moved back up here to Northeast PA for reasons I won't go into, but it was a bit of a fiasco then. It still is a bit of a fiasco, but you'll have this. And then in 1996, I got a real internet connection. And I hooked up on the Old Tools list, which was started by Patrick Leach, Thomas Bruce, and a few other guys. And one of the things that the Old Tool list would do is they would have Flea Market Monday, where you could post a list of tools for sale every first Monday of every month. And this is a picture on the left side of my first list from 1996. And then by 1998, I'd gotten a digital camera and started doing that. And my first web page was hosted. Well, I hosted it off my ISP for a little bit, but they got cranky about too much traffic because it was a personal homepage. So then I went on GeoCities. And then they got cranky about it, so I switched over to Yahoo Business Account and set up my web page there. And in 2000, I started selling on eBay, July of 2000. First two items I sold on there were actually cast iron pots, but that's neither here nor there. Kept up with the tool lists. And another important thing that I did was get involved with tool shows, and I got involved with those early on. First one I went to was the inaugural York, PA Midwest Tools Meet, and that was in January of 1996. Barry Herschel, I had an auction at a firehouse on Saturday, and then Sunday the meet was at the York County Agricultural and Industrial Museum, which was a really neat place to have it. And they had it there for a number of years, and then they moved over to one of the hotels in the area where they'd have the auction on Saturday and then the tool sale on Sunday. I also went to Patina for the first time in spring of 96, March of 96, where I tailgated. There was one of three guys, only three guys tailgating out there. And I've talked about this in my Patina videos. But I continued tailgating down there on and off until 2000. Then I got the inside table and was there for quite a few years. It was kind of then got on and off for a while and then kind of been back. So. And the other one I used to do was the Browns sale. Back in the 90s, I would just do room sales at the hotel because they didn't allow tailgating. But a number of guys did that. And then around 2000, I also got an inside seller there and did that for a long time. Just the fall show. Never sold it at the spring show because after Patina, I never really had the stock to continue doing all that. And I also got involved with reenactments as part of selling back in the early 2000s. I was at the Fort Fred Market Fair for a number of years, and that was a lot of fun. Used to set up with Walt and Mary Henderson. Walt was a cabinet maker. And that was just tons of fun. I used to do really well there. And, of course, back in those days, I could buy enough stuff that I didn't have to worry about selling it online. I was selling 50 items a week on eBay, or listing 50 items a week, but I was selling pretty close to 50 items a week and still was buying enough stuff that I could set boxes aside for doing the reenactments. Another one I used to do was the Colonial Craftsman's Weekend at the Jerusalem Mill in Kingsville, Maryland. They also had a couple of Revolutionary War events there that I set up at. And I was a longtime regular at the Jacobsburg Rendezvous. They used to have a Father's Day weekend and a Halloween weekend event. Now they're just down to the fall event anymore. But, I kind of miss doing that, but just haven't had the time. And I also did some demonstrations. I was a longtime regular at the Lord Sterling Festival in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. That's held in the beginning of October every year. Matter of fact, the guy still emails me about it, and I'm sure I'll get a reminder email or a phone call soon saying, hey, are you going to be here? But again, it's a question of time and just desire to do it. But anyways, I also did a number of demonstrations down at the PA side of the Washington Crossing State Park. In case you're wondering about all the stopping and starting, my voice gets kind of gravelly, so I gotta take a little pause doing this. And also, this is the third time of me doing this video, because just the first time was a total disaster. Second time, for some reason, I had the camera on the tripod, and things got just really weird with the video. It looked like the place was on fire or smoky or whatever, which it wasn't. So, anyways, and in the course of all this, I've logged thousands and thousands of miles going to flea markets and thousands of hours going to flea markets and antique shows and you name it, tool shows. I've tore more vehicles than I care to think of doing it as well. And who knows how long I'm going to keep doing it. I mean, by my guess, I've sold probably 35,000 tools. I know 20,000 plus on eBay, even though the feedbacks don't show that. But for a long time there, only the first feedback you left for somebody counted. And there was one guy I sold 600 items to. He left me one feedback, and that was it. Well, nowadays they count them, but too late for that. And a lot of those guys are long gone. And well, I'm getting kind of tired and thinking one of these days it's going to be time to hang it up, but I'm quite ready to pull the plug. I do need to work on getting the shop cleaned out, though, because I don't want to be stuck with all this towards the end. But I'm thinking at least I got another year to go, God willing, and the creek don't rise. But it's been a fun ride, and I want to thank everybody who's come along for it and stayed with me. There's a couple guys I've been selling to for one guy on Facebook I've been selling to since 2006, and a couple of others have been around on the tool list since the very early days back in the 1990s, and occasionally show up and buy something. So it's been a fun time. Anyways, that's all for this one, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Probably didn't learn much, but I get to 30 years, I guess I get to brag a little. So anyways, bye.